Welcome, BroadwayWorld.com. It's me, Eddie Varley. I'm upstairs at Sardi's, and I can't tell you how excited I am with the person I'm sitting next to. You all know that it's a Hairspray world now, and I'm sitting with the captain of the ship, the director and choreographer extraordinaire, Adam Shankman.
Hey, nice to be here.
I thank you for taking the time out of what is an insane time right now for you.
Yeah, we're opening up tomorrow, so it's really scary. No one knows how scary that can be.
Well, the buzz is great.
Thank you.
The buzz is great. And the reviews, by time this, keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Get off the keyboards and cross them, everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're in a space right now that for you, I want to go to immediately how you're feeling about this journey, and then go back to let everybody know he's a dancer, he's a performer first.
Yeah. Well, I think that's actually why I feel so. That's why I actually feel so strongly about this whole experience and why I had to do it is because emotionally, musicals are. They're kind of difficult things to make because there's so many moving parts. It's really like making an action movie, except instead of explosions, you have high kicks. Yeah. I had over 150 dancers in this movie, which is, I think, a lot more than anything has had in a really long time. I auditioned over 3,000. And, just scheduling them, scheduling the vocal rehearsal, scheduling the principals who are all coming in and out, because when you're filming a musical movie, or at least I was, because I was using real locations, because I had to shoot, an entire city's, Tracy's World is a city. Yeah. So since I was shooting an entire city, we were a bit of a slave to what was available in terms of locations, and also the weather, because we were shooting because we were shooting in Toronto.
Okay. Most of it was filmed in Toronto?
All of it was filmed in Toronto, except for the opening shot, which was a helicopter shot of actual Baltimore, but not only Baltimore, but Highlandtown, which is where the original
where it all began.
Then we just CG'd the CG being computer graphic, like the period cars and all of that stuff into there. So I threw a few extra tugboats in the water, a little funny girl thing, and we. Because there's so much scheduling and so much going on, it was just this extraordinary labor, because I was also rehearsing it for 4 months before we even started.
You were doing 10 Broadway shows at once.
Yeah, it was
and
amazing.
Putting it all out
But
there.
I'll tell you what was really the coolest thing in the world was when we really got into full force after the adults all got there, the adult cast members, is that it was a total factory. We had 2 giant sound stages and then a vocal room and then private dance studios going. So I had like 5 rehearsals going on simultaneously that I was running between, in order to do it. And it was just the coolest thing in the world. I can only imagine, seriously, that must have been what it was like at MGM.
I mean, you're going back to that. The history of what you're working on is that kind of a film. And that's what people are talking about now. One of the things that I've heard people quote about what you've done with the dancing is you could see their full bodies. You could see their feet dancing.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen.
Well,
nowadays.
Yeah, not as much. I mean, I thought that Rob Marshall did a bunch of it in Chicago, but I don't know. To me, what happened with the choreography in this movie, what I was hoping to achieve, was that the movement was basically an extension of how the characters were feeling.
Sure.
And I didn't want it to feel like breaking out and dancing so much as just this is how the world works.
Exactly.
And I have been told I accomplished that. Maybe these people are liars, but
there's a lot of liars, because I'm hearing it too.
Yeah. But it feels really, really good. I never wanted anybody to feel like it was inappropriate dancing. I mean, it's a dancing show, so so when you go on, they're supposed to be dancing. So that never feels out of place. That never feels inorganic, because that's that is the surface thread line. It's Tracy's goal is to dance on the show. So.
Exactly, and then her mom. I want to stick on the dancing as far as John Travolta, one of the greatest screen dancers ever.
Yeah,
and then becoming Edna
of our generation.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, and then what he brought to Edna, and as a choreographer and the director. How did you create that Edna? Because she dances a lot more in this, right?
Well, one of the things that was exciting about casting John Travolta was that I could have a dancing Edna, which we've never had before. My Edna And by the way, and Edna, who really wanted to dance. Do you know what I mean? He wanted to.
He had some specific desires to say yes.
Specific, things that he wanted to do. But one of the things that I wanted to really show in order for there to be a really big arc for Edna was, by the way, I used dancing to help me with that. She's much more pent up, before she leaves the house.
How many, 15 years or whatever?
Well, that's the lyric. That's one of the things that really changed, I think, between the John Waters movie and my movie, was Mark and Scott wrote the lyrics, I haven't left this house since 1951. And a simple rhyme turned Edna into an 11-year shut-in.
Sure. It's a lot of backstory. That's an origin right there.
I haven't left this house since 1951. So I was like, wow, okay, so she hasn't left the house in 11 years. She's ashamed. She's fragile and afraid. And I think when I said that to John, he really, really responded as an actor, going like, that's really interesting. I think that both Divine and Harvey are brilliant performances. Both, but they were they were full of a lot of brio, and I think that John has a lot more fragility in the way he approached Edna, which I thought was really fun because it just gave it's John's unique stamp.
Yeah, and you wanted that. I mean, for you, this entire world, going from the '88 film and then the Tony-winning musical to all this history, but they're great iconic characters that now you had the basket and the canvas.
Yeah, and how horrible would it have been if John Travolta had tried to go out there and imitate Divine or Harvey? Yeah. It would have been horrible, So there had to be a unique approach, and that's how we started it. And also with the curvier, the waist, adding a real waist to Edna, and. Believe me, there was a lot of channeling of Anna Magnani on my set.
I bet. I'd like to see those outtakes in the DVD if there are any.
And divorce Italian style. But it was very, it was really fun to approach, because when Edna then starts to dance, I hate to say this, but I was always like, it should be like the dancing hippos in Fantasia, where, you ignore the weight.
Right. And this graceful, fluid,
Absolutely.
movement comes out.
To ignore it. And I think a lot of John's movement vocabulary came from, as he got in the suit, he really wanted to kind of tip his hat to the women in the neighborhood he grew up in.
That's nice.
And it's just sort of all kind of came together. But the dancing, I wanted to just be sweet and very girlish and flirty. Because I feel like Edna's relationship with Wilbur is so flirty, and I think that John also responded to that we were doing very girlish stuff. Because in Welcome to the 60s, what Edna does is come to see the world through Tracy's eyes as well. She sees it with the same kind of freshness and discovery. So she would dance like Tracy, who dances like a little girl, still, and with all that kind of energy. But then in You Can't Stop the Beat, I had said, early on to John, I said, my goal, if we can pull this off, is because in order to kind of tip our hat to the future, that You Can't Stop the Beat, about going to the future, sure. I wanted to do a couple different things, but primarily I wanted to get Edna in a mini dress.
Well,
and so I thought by having Edna in a mini dress, and then he said, oh my God, like Tina Turner. I said, yeah, and then we can do the fringe, because I want all that movement.
All that shaking and that energy on camera.
Like, I love that. And so then this whole Tina Turner thing happened, and it was just, all of the dancing for Edna was really approached through that kind of a character.
And each character.
And each character had that, and then we just kind of approached it, choreographically through the arc. Of each of the characters in the story.
Now, you have all that, you brought that, you're dancing, but you're also directing it. But you go back, I want to quickly cover the fact that you were a dancer and a choreographer. Yeah. And seeing that up there, each person, were there moments where you were dancing all the roles as you were getting together in your mind?
Yeah. I choreographed it, so I had to. But
now, you're from LA originally. Tell me a little bit about how you were a younger performer and growing in your journey to where we're sitting here.
I have a kind of a different story than most people. I didn't start till I was very old. I started like literally doing plays in summer camp, and then it turned into all the high school stuff, but I never took a dance class until I was 18. And I was dancing at the Minneapolis Children's Theater Company in school in a lot of their repertoire theater productions. And the choreographer there said, you should actually be a dancer because that seems like what you were put here to do. Mm-hmm. And I thought, like, well, that's fantastic sounding. So, because I loved how dancing felt. I was a competitive gymnast and all that. So moving has always been something that's been, the most important part of my artistic expression. So that kind of was great. So I auditioned for all the schools, and I ended up getting into all the schools I auditioned for, including Juilliard, but it was very flash dance because I'd never taken any classes, so I didn't even know what any of the
cut-off sweatshirt as you went in, and you're
close, but it was very, very odd getting in, and then I felt really uncomfortable at Juilliard because I didn't have any training, and even though I had the facility. I felt very sneered at, and it was just uncomfortable for me. So I eventually dropped out to become a good old chorus boy, and Manny Azenberg's daughter, kind of found me and snatched me up and kept me busy for a lot of years.
Yeah. You were doing everything for a while.
I did a lot of making fun of Mark Shaman.
It's like the old, coming in from his special on the set across the way. It's Mark Shaman, everybody. There he goes. He's here.
He can't get enough.
I think that's a hint.
So anyway, I was I did that, and then I was here for a while, and I did summer stock, and then I moved back to California, ended up getting some dance jobs for Janet Jackson and Paula Abdul and a couple other choreographers, and then I actually had the 42nd Street thing happening where I was sitting in an office and doors flew open at a video production company and said, we need a choreographer, and I just turned and said, I'm a choreographer, totally lying. And he grabbed me by the arm, and I met the director, who was a very prolific music video director at the time named Julian Temple.
Sure.
Who directed, he did Absolute Beginner.
Yeah, one of the
great movies. And he said, you have to just do this. And I said, of course I will. And I did it, and it ended up turning out pretty well. So
you brought that, and then you became a director of these wonderful comedies that had a lot of movement, and I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I approached taking movies like I was like a dancer, like they were gigs,
sure.
And I had never had any burning, coal in my stomach to be a director. That's not where I ever thought my life would take me, but I'm happy it did.
Yeah. And what a great marriage with this film.
Yeah, it worked out really, really well on this one, but I'm thrilled.
So, before I let you go, because you're busy, because he's got a big hit movie opening, go out there and see it, all of you. Get off the computers.
Your mouth to the box office God's
ears. It's going to happen.
All
right. What are you going to do to balance all this? And the first thing you're going to get a break, what will be the first thing you do to relax?
Well, the problem is I go straight. I don't get a break. I go straight to produce Step Up 2 in Baltimore for a few weeks. Okay. We start rotating as producers on that, my sister and I. And then
who is your producing partner?
My producing partner is my sister, yeah. And then I go straight into this Adam Sandler film called Bedtime Stories. So I'm doing that. Maybe another Zac Efron movie called 17 in between, producing as well. And I have also a Broadway show that I'd like to do.
We need you back.
Which I can't say what the name is, but I'm desperately trying to get Mark and Scott after they do Catch Me If You Can.
Well, I'll try to twist a few arms in just a second. Well, thank you so much, Adam Shankman, for coming by Broadway World, and congratulations. I think it's a joyful time.
Thanks.
Take care. Bye, everybody.